Okay. This webinar series is brought to you by the International Society for the Study of Behavioral Development and the Child and Family blog and Global Outreach. As many of you already know, the International Society for the Study of Behavioral Development, or ISSBD, is an international organization society founded in 1969 with a focus on people, places, and practices. ISSBD unites developmental psychologists of all backgrounds and around the world in a science that cares and is committed to promoting holistic and positive development. ISSBD has over 1,000 members in over 70 countries across 6 continents and invests in their members and forming networks to advance science and close research practice gaps. You can learn more about ISSBD and join the society if you're not already a member at issbd.org. We're also joined in partnership by the Child and Family Global Outreach, a platform that was first developed as a blog in 2015 to share research-based insights with parents, practitioners, and policymakers worldwide. First as a blog and now as a global dissemination organization, CFGO is dedicated to making developmental science accessible, actionable, by bridging the gap between research and real-world impact. You can learn more and sign up for emails at childandfamilyblog.com. In 2025, ISSBD and CFGO came together to develop Scholarship for Change, a free 12-part webinar series designed to equip early and later career scholars with the tools to take developmental research beyond academia and into the hands of parents, practitioners, and policymakers. So what can you expect today and going forward? There will be 12 webinars, like I said, and each will be 45 minutes with 15 minutes reserved at the end for Q&A. When we get to that point, questions may be entered into the chat box or shared directly with the presenter. We will always ask you to complete questions before and after each webinar so that we can gauge prior knowledge and also we can assess what you've learned. A list of all 12 webinars is now posted on issbd.org. And if you want to rewatch this webinar or if you missed the next one, we will be recording all webinars for later viewing. All webinars will feature global experts who will share practical strategies for communicating science clearly, applying it in real-world settings, and generating lasting impact. And today's session is no exception. So it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Aled Nelms, founder and CEO of Lumen SEO. After consulting for Google and teaching night classes at Cardiff University, where he met over 500 small business owners, Aled founded Lumen SEO, which is a transparent and affordable digital marketing agency that empowers clients, including the Child and Family blog, to take control of their online presence. Now, 5 years in, Aled leads a growing team and oversees the company's operations and strategic direction. In addition to his business work, Aled's passionate about education and outreach, and I think that will be evident today. He collaborates with local schools and colleges to inspire young people to develop their skills and explore entrepreneurship. We're excited to have him with us today to kick off the webinar series and share insights on search engine optimization and also AI that can be useful to researchers to communicate their work more clearly, creatively, and impactfully online. So please join me in welcoming Aled.
Thank you so much, Julia. That was lovely. That was one of the nicest intros. I feel like I should have recorded that. Do you know what I mean, sent it to my mum or something? Oh, that's embarrassing. Okay, let me share for you guys. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome. I love the fact I'm normally in the UK. I'm currently in Texas. So the timing is perfect. It's a beautiful morning. And the fact that someone's already gone in the chat and said, "Hi from Argentina," has blown my mind. So this is fantastic. This is so cool. Yes, please feel free to keep the chat box nice and warm. let us know where you're from. Any questions throughout as well, please feel free to do so. We'll have a nice Q&A session at the end. Serbia, awesome. It's just getting cooler and cooler. We're like jumping across continents. This is amazing. So yeah, I'll be honest, I'm really, really passionate about this. I promise I'm not just saying that for scripture and verse. We've been working with the Child and Family blog now for, I'm going to say, the best part of about 3 years. And it's been an absolute joy because what we've done is we've worked out a system and a process that I thought at the time was completely normal. Turns out it's very unique for taking incredible discoveries. Like right now, there are academics and there are passionate people discovering incredible things through their research, and that research isn't going into the hands of the people who it could benefit as much as it could be. And so this is why we're talking about dissemination. This is why we're talking about spreading that research to the people who can benefit from it most. And that's what I've loved about doing with Child and Family blog is those discoveries about child development, that the discoveries about parenting are now getting into the hands of those people. And we're going to be talking a little bit about how many people we're talking about here in terms of just over the last 12 months for those guys. And hopefully from this kind of workshop, you guys can get a couple of just a bit of a toolkit essentially. And we're not going to go into massive depth. What I want to make sure we're doing here is just giving you, if you go away with one, two, maybe three ways in which you go, okay, I wasn't doing that before, and now I'm going to do that from now on. That's great. And if there's one or two things you're like, that goes straight over my head, I'm not so sure about that, maybe not for me, that's okay as well. That's really, really important. And the chat is so warm. Thank you, Croatia, beautiful country. Been there twice, beautiful. Kenya, I went to Kenya when I was young. It was amazing. Yeah, very, very welcoming. Germany, I'm half German. Guys, we have all the connections here. This is amazing. But I will get stuck in because we've got an hour and I really want to be as useful as possible. But if you don't manage to get your question answered during the session, by the way, feel free to I'll put my details at the end. My LinkedIn's there. You can just search me on Google. And yeah, any questions afterwards, just feel free to send them over LinkedIn, Instagram, email, whatever works best for you guys. So thank you. There we go. There's my all caps. Thank you. So enthusiastic. So just give you a brief background, and I'm not very good at doing like formal introductions to my experience. So I'm just going to run through the very first business that I started with my brother when we were in our teenage years. It was literally doing garden maintenance in a village in West Wales. It was like the middle of nowhere. So for those who don't know, West Wales, it's kind of like before you go to Ireland, that's where we were just before you drop into the sea. So that's exactly where we were. I went to school. They knocked the school down. So that's why that's the photo I've got of the school. Because they knocked it down. I think they thought we didn't do so well, so they wanted to start again. I think that's what the strategy was. But I did go to university. I had a really, really enjoyable time studying music and business, my two just kind of biggest passions. Which during time I started a sock company. That was an incredible adventure and a massive failure, but was beautiful. And failures is where you learn the most, right? So that's what they say about the best academics. You're looking for the right questions, not necessarily the right answers. And I think that's definitely came up with more questions from that experience. But it was then during my third year of university where I started working for Google for a year. And it was essentially my job to consult small businesses and people just like you guys who want to upskill and ensure that they feel capable and confident when it comes to exposing their business, their ideas to the world. And that's where I realized a massive passion of mine. And then since then, grew hair on my face and got a haircut. There we go. It's like two great things happened in one. Anywho, so now, as Julie said, so much more wonderfully than I can ever say. Now the director, founder of Lumen SEO, search engine optimization agency. So we specialize in getting people out in front of people who search on Google and more recently ChatGPT. But I'm also the director of a skincare company. It's a cute little family business based in West Wales. But let's talk about today and let's talk about the objective. Because I can see by the chat box, everyone's keen, everyone's excited, love to see it. And essentially, today is more about just equipping with tools. Today is about confidence, right? Because you have to have confidence before you have tools. You could have everything at your disposal. You could have all the tools, all the investment, everything at your disposal. But if you don't have the confidence to execute, then that research isn't going to go anywhere. Those discoveries aren't going to go anywhere. And so this is a lot about confidence first, and then kind of tools and strategies second. That's what we're prioritizing here. But ultimately, it's about getting you guys featured in Google, getting you guys featured in ChatGPT search results, the places where people go for guidance, for information, for inspiration. That's what it's all about. Now, just to show you what the opportunity is, we've got a lovely example here for Child and Family Blog, which we've been working, like I said, for 2 to 3 years. And the process we've had with those guys is that they've had some of the best researchers and curious minds, I would say, around the world create these beautiful articles based on their research, based on their investigations, and all to do with child development and family, kind of family-based topics. And essentially, what they've done is they've created these articles. They've gone through us and my team, and we've done the steps. Many of the steps we'll cover today to take that article that was kind of sitting on the website and maybe gaining a couple of clicks from people visiting the website, but actually getting it out there and featuring on Google and ChatGPT when people search for the topic that the article has essentially covered. And during just the last year, that's accrued or gained 80,500 clicks. That's just from Google alone. 1,573 clicks from Bing search, 643 from ChatGPT. And that one down the bottom, 274, that's a search engine called Perplexity, which is another AI search engine. That one's particularly poignant for you guys because Perplexity is often used by, I would say, those exploring deeper topics. I would say it's used a lot by researchers. It's used a lot by maybe larger organizations. And so Perplexity is kind of a big deal. And the great news is everything I'm going to show you over the next kind of 30 minutes is going to be about getting you guys featured in those AI search results in front of those right people, as well as Google search as well. I should mention that I'm going to get very excited about AI search engines because I am. I think they offer a fantastic experience. I think it's a level up from what we've experienced from Google for the last 20 years. It's a industry I'm loving seeing getting a little bit shaken up. I know there's a lot of businesses here in Austin who have definitely kind of cottoned on, and there's a lot of conversations, is Google dead? And I should mention that Google isn't dead. Still 93% of all searches are made on Google, so they are still the dominant force, but there is a reason to get excited about the experience that people can have by searching on these AI-based search engines and having a more intuitive experience. Also, hey to someone from Zambia. That's so cool. I love it. That's amazing. Keep the locations going. I absolutely love it. What else have we got? Ghana. This is this is so cool. Gibraltar, India. Amazing. There we go. Also someone from the US. Love that. Here we go. We're both there. It's great. Zimbabwe as well. I wonder how much of Africa we can cover. That would be amazing. That is so cool. So as for today, I'm going to talk briefly about what SEO actually is, and then I'm just going to offload like literally one tip for 4 different areas of SEO. So for keywords, content, building links, and working on your PR, as well as AR optimization, I'm just going to offload literally one tip for each of them because I want to make sure that we're kind of covering each area of SEO, but at the same time, I don't want to overwhelm you guys with loads of different strategies. It's going to be one tool for each. And like I said, there may just be 1 or 2 that you go, oh, that's for me. That sounds great. That's, where my skills are lacking, and that's where I want to head into. Lesotho as well. That's amazing. So it's getting even cooler. So search engine optimization, I like to think of you guys, when we say optimization, think of it a bit like when you optimize your health, right? So if we were to optimize our health, we'd think, right, I'm going to walk to work instead of take the car. I'm going to go to the gym three times a week. And I'm going to, I don't know, quit carbs, right? That would be what we'd say is optimizing our health. We're making changes to our life, to our lifestyle, to our, to our routines, excuse me, to optimize and improve our health. That's exactly the idea here, but we're doing this with websites. Okay, we're doing this with articles, we're doing this with blogs. We're making optimizations. We're putting the website, we're putting the blog on the treadmill and getting it to go further. Here we go. That's the best I've done that metaphor yet. I'm really pleased with that. And that's essentially what we're doing here. We're optimizing to appear on those search engines. Just give you an example, obviously using, how many times can I feature a client? But it's their wonderful fault that I'm here. So I'm going to feature Child and Family Blog a lot. They're also a fantastic example as well. So just to show you what it looks like, this is a Google search. You guys will recognize this. And I just wanted to show you around some of the different areas of this of this platform. I'm going to try and use the annotate tool here. Hopefully this will work. Maybe. Actually, maybe I shouldn't, because then I might leave a load of marks on it. So maybe I won't do that. Let's do the mouse. There we go. That looks great. So what you're seeing here is up the top, you've got the search query. As you can see there, I've searched child and family blog. That's my search query. And below you get the search result. Now, the important little bit of jargon, I guess, that I'm going to offload first of all, is this area down here. This is called the metadata. So META data. And essentially, this is completely changeable. You can decide what this says if you own this website. And so in this metadata, you've got the title tag and the meta description. And these below here are the site links as well. So where you can click through to specific areas of child and family blog. The reason I'm mentioning this is because it's going to be relevant later when I talk about some of the keywords and places that you can add keywords. I'll also explain what keywords actually are. That would help. But it's important. We're going to come back to that later. But this is the search result. This is where we're aiming to get you. And of course, we're not just talking about general, like the search result in general. We're talking about the news area as well. So if I flick over to news on that search result, you're going to see a ton of anything to do with child and family blog, or whether child and family blog has featured in the news, which is also really poignant for what you guys are doing. So there's big stats surrounding search. So 93% of all online experiences begin with a search engine because, of course, Google's a search engine, ChatGPT is a search engine, Amazon is a search engine, right? TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, they all have search engines. They are all looking to give the searcher the best result possible. And this is where you guys are on a pedestal. This is where you guys have a massive opportunity, because one of the key criteria that search engines consider to be high quality is something that is well researched or well backed. This is why, to be completely honest, Child and Family Blog has been one of the easier clients for us to work with, because it's not difficult for us to say to Google, look, this is fresh information, this is good stuff, this is high value information, because it is, right? Because that's exactly what's included in the article. That's why, again, researchers and academics have such a huge opportunity to feature in search results, because it's that brand new information collected by humans, right? Collected by intelligence, those discoveries. That's what Google is prioritizing in its search results. So it's important to mention that. As for actually implementing SEO, when we talk about how we publish, obviously there's many options ahead of you. A lot of the content management systems, so the systems in which you can have your own blog or your own website where you share your research. Wix, Squarespace, and WordPress are often the most common, I would say, with WordPress owning about half of the web in total. Now, I mention these platforms because, of course, if you guys are at the point where you want to start a blog or start an article, centralized article space to promote your research, to promote your learnings, to build an audience to your research, you can use these platforms very, very easily and very, very affordably to do that. And the techniques that I'm going to be sharing with you now are totally relevant to these platforms as well. But of course, if you have any questions about those platforms, about how to use them, just let me know, because I appreciate we're probably all at different stages in terms of our sort of dissemination cycle, if you like. So like I said, one tip for each. We can talk about keywords, we can talk about content, how to actually structure your content in your article so that it features well on search. We're going to be talking a little bit about links and PR. We have a fantastic tool that is free to access that allows you guys to essentially get in front of writers and publishers with your research, because they are looking for people just like you who are enthusiastic and have a huge level of skin in the game when it comes to your specific topic or area. So, for example, if you're an expert in child development, there will be a load of people in the PR world, from blogs, newspapers, media all over the world, that will be looking for people just like you when they're writing an article on child development. So I'm going to show you a really nice system that's free to use that will allow you to get in front of those people in a way that's, dare I say it, quite good fun as well. So don't hold me to that. Don't be like, that was boring, he lied. But I find it's good fun. And then lastly, we're just going to touch on AIO, or AI optimization, but essentially some of the slight nuances, slight differences when it comes to optimizing or improving your articles and structuring them in a way that makes them appeal to ChatGPT and Perplexity and AI search engines. I should mention that what it takes to rank on Google search results and ChatGPT search results is very similar. It's around 75, 80% of the same processes. I'm just going to mention that 20%, just little differences, because I just have a feeling that with the nature of what you guys do, I feel like appearing in ChatGPT results, you saw there the clicks that are already coming through to Child and Family Blog. I think it particularly pertains to what you guys do. I think if I was talking to a bunch of kind of retail business owners or I don't know, personal trainers, it may be different, but I think for you guys it's particularly important. So kicking off with keywords. So put very simply, keywords, it's kind of in the name, it's the key words, it's the words that you're using to find the thing, right? So if you want to find, I don't know, I'm in Texas, so I'm gonna mention barbecue because it's blown my mind the last week. So if I was looking for a barbecue restaurant, I would search in Google barbecue restaurant Austin, right? And that would be my keyword. That would be my key phrase, would be barbecue restaurant Austin, right? And so this is the difference we have. We have short tail keywords here. So we've got parenting advice, positive psychology, AI and education, and you've got the long tail version. So long tail keywords is kind of longer. It's usually a 3 or 5 kind of words in there, or maybe even more. And it's important to mention that when people are searching on ChatGPT, on average, they will use a longer keyword because we understand it to be a prompt, right? You search a prompt within ChatGPT or an AI search engine. And so those prompts tend to be a little bit longer than a Google search, which by the way means that the traffic you get, the people that visit your website, your publication, your article from ChatGPT tend to be more informed. So by that, I mean, they are more likely to want what you have because they've given the search engine more information to get what they need. Hope that makes sense. So essentially, they're coming through because they're the most relevant person. They've searched something really, really long, really specific, and they found you. So clearly, you're the best person. It's nor I give a dating analogy, but I don't want to be immature about looking for something very specific. So short tail, for example, parenting advice, the long tail for new parents. Secondly, positive psychology. Well, a long tail version of that might be what is positive reinforcement in psychology. These are all trending, by the way. These are all terms that like people search for, like plenty of people, especially worldwide. I would have done these keywords just for the US, I believe. So if they're appearing here, they're going to appear all over the world. Then you've got AI and education, the long tail version of that being, and yes, this is a trending search term. What are the ethical considerations of using AI in education? In fact, you can guarantee that thousands of people will be searching that very long tail keyword all over the world every single month. There'll be thousands of people searching what are the ethical considerations of using AI in education. And that's a wonderful example because Google or ChatGPT are only going to display particularly recent and accurate research when it comes to giving people advice on the ethical considerations for using AI in education. So it's a good example of the kind of search term where you guys would appear just so well because you have that academic background. If you're looking for these keywords, when it comes to finding these keywords, I'd massively recommend a tool. It's a really, really good tool. And again, if you want me to kind of show you through it really quickly at the end, let me know. It is one of those tools that's just incredibly intuitive. And the idea is that you search your short tail keyword and it will give you suggestions on long tail. So for example, in Google Trends, you could put in something like parenting advice and you'd get loads of different options of what people are searching to do with parenting advice. So parenting advice for new parents would come up, but also 10, 20, 30, 40 other suggestions. And of course, what's great about Google Trends, those suggestions are based on what people are actually searching. And it's coming from Google, right? It's coming from the horse's mouth. So you know that it's what people are searching. It's what is popular. It's what people are looking for. So Google Trends is a fantastic tool for that. And I'd recommend if you're just a massive just nerd like me, just have some fun with it and put some words in there and see what people are searching within that specific topic. I promise it's interesting. And this is great because most of us are like, again, academics or researchers. So I've hopefully just speaking to my crowd here, which is great. Be interested in niche topics at all times. So I'm going to use the ethical considerations of using AI education. I'm going to use that as an example here. And essentially what you want to be doing, and you're writing your articles, when you're writing your pieces, when you're making those publications, you want to make sure that you're threading that long tail keyword throughout your article, so throughout the paragraphs, headings where possible. And think of it a bit like kind of breaking it up into small pieces. So, for example, if I was to write an article on the Child and Family blog about the ethical considerations of using AI in education, my goal in terms of getting that on the search result is making sure that I use the word ethical, use the word considerations, using the word using, and AI and education. So those 5 words in that article. Naturally, of course, you don't want it to sound really unnatural and kind of chunky, but I want to be using it throughout the article to make sure that when someone is searching for ethical considerations or AI or education, you're more likely to appear in that ChatGPT or Google search result. Now, below that are some of the areas where you can actually add those keywords. So you guys might remember I mentioned the metadata at the beginning. So the metadata being that title and description that you find when you make a Google search. And so, of course, in that title tag, you're going to want to include the title of your article. So the ethical considerations of using AI in education. So many times I can say that today and not get it wrong. There's a tongue twister, that one. So the metadata is really where you want to be putting it in. But there's also maybe some more obvious areas. You have the headings of the article. We'll talk more about article structuring very shortly. The text, so the actual paragraphs as well. The alt text is just the description of your images, so including it in there is always really useful. And I would say the other one as well is the URL. So when we talk about the URL, we talk about what comes after the slash. So if we've got childandfamilyblog.com, if I wanted to optimize the URL of my article, it would then say childandfamilyblog.com slash ethical considerations of using AI in education. See, I nailed it again. So it's about just including it and threading it through. But again, it's being natural. It's not forcing it. You don't want to force it through. We've had examples. I'm originally from Cardiff in South Wales, and one of the examples we had was a sandwich shop down there. And they really, really wanted to rank for Sandwich Shop Cardiff. And so their website, no joke, the first paragraph said, if you're looking for a sandwich in Cardiff, don't forget to go to our sandwich shop in Cardiff. If you're ever hungry in Cardiff, make sure you visit our sandwich shop in Cardiff for a sandwich that you can buy at a shop that you can eat in Cardiff. And I like by the end, I needed a nap. Like it was just too intense. So you don't, it's all about the quality of the information, but threading these words through. And again, they don't all have to be all in one go. You don't have to have ethical and considerations and using an AI in education all in one go. You can have it threaded through a paragraph. It can be nice and subtle, rather unlike that sandwich shop in Cardiff. Secondly, then, is the content. So here, when we talk about content, we can talk about the actual contents of the article. How should it look? How should it be structured? And this one's really key, guys. I'm probably going to spend most of the time here because I think this is probably one of the most common mistakes when I see research being published online, is that often it's published in a way that maybe a fellow researcher would find useful because the patience required to consume information, particularly via reading, is something that is part of everyday life for a researcher or an academic. But for the Child and Family blog's case, for the busy parent, right, who's maybe just about to have a child, or maybe or the busy parent or guardian, they need something that's structured, that reads a bit like a newspaper article or a nice blog or a nice LinkedIn post. They need something that's easy to consume and navigate. This is where we have to make adaptations. And those adaptations are here. So blogs produce 75% of search result information. So you're probably thinking, well, YouTube's massive. Shouldn't I just be putting shouldn't I be making vlogs about my research? Feel free to do so. That'd be really cool. But still, when it comes to actually what ends up in a search result, what you see on a Google search result or ChatGPT search result, 75% of that is from blogs. So it's still blogs and articles that are producing the wealth of that information. And that could be your information, right? It could be your name under that information. So ensuring you answer a relevant question is key. And we've just gone over that in the keyword section. It's really, really useful to make sure that you are answering that relevant question. That actually, what you are publishing is actually going through and is actually answering a question that people are actually asking. Now, one, I guess, cautionary tale here is that you guys are the expert in what you're researching. Remember, the person you're trying to get through to is not. And so don't be surprised if when you do that keyword research, when you go on Google Trends, that the questions being asked are a little bit more simpler than you expected. And we get into this constant debate with business owners, with our clients. We have over 40 clients across Europe and the US. And often what we'll end up getting in debates with them is we'll say, oh, look, we're trying to rank you for this word. We're trying to get you to appear on search for this word. And they'll go, oh, that sounds too basic. I don't like that. It makes us sound really basic. I'm like, that's because your customer is thinking basic. You've got to appeal to the customer. And there's nothing worse than feeling alienated, right? Than getting through to a website and going, okay, I came here for advice on real estate, for example, and now I'm more confused than before I arrived, right? It's got to be approachable. So answering a relevant question, including multimedia, so images and even better is videos. If you do have kind of videos on your research or anything like that, or again, just any kind of video content based on what you've done, including that in the article is a great way to go. But at the very least, you can see it in this snippet here, a child and family blog. They're really good at including 3 or 4 images in the article just to break up the kind of information, make it a bit more navigable, make it a bit more of a visual experience. It particularly works well for those with various kind of levels of neurodiversity as well. So if you've got particularly a reader who has ADHD or ADD, we find that including visual elements helps to make that article more consumable and essentially just easier to focus on. Structuring with headings is absolutely key. So think of it a bit like if you read a great newspaper article, right? I don't know when the last time anyone read a newspaper, but if you read a newspaper article, it's really helpful to see those kind of headlines, from like the really poignant bits from the article, because you can go, oh, that sounds interesting. I'm just going to skip to that part. And that's essentially what the headings are all about. It's about giving people little anchors, little drop in points where they can find the information that they need. Because often you'll find that it's very rare that someone will actually read an entire blog, like 100% of one of these child and family blogs, but it's highly likely that they will scroll down and find the specific section that they want and then get the information that they need. So in this screenshot example here, this is an article on screen time and digital consumption for children. And there's a great little subheading here. And by the way, this will be a trending question. So how and when can screen time be beneficial for children? A parent looking to get that specific answer or that specific question answered can now scroll down to that area and find that information. You imagine if that heading wasn't there, it's just a paragraph amongst paragraphs. So structuring with headings makes it nice and easy to consume. The other thing is consistency. This is a big deal for Google and ChatGPT. Now, by consistency, I don't mean like post a new blog or publication every single day. That could get pretty exhausting. But just making sure that you're doing it fairly consistently. So, Child and Family Blog again is a good example because they publish probably, I'd say on average between 2 and 4 times per month, and it generally remains within that. And I know that Duncan's on the call. I know he's used to me back in the day, kind of just going, "Oh, we haven't had one for sort of 3 or 4 weeks. Fancy sort of sending one over," and because it needs to go through a review process and things like that. But that consistency is really really important. Even if it's once per month, even if it's your biggest discovery that month, and you're sharing, you're publishing that once per month, that consistency is great. And the final thing, and I feel like I'm kind of patronizing you guys with this one a little bit, but just making sure it's not written with AI. It is tempting, but of course, because you're going to be sharing your own insights, I think that's highly unlikely. But it's worth mentioning that any AI generated content used in articles means that article is less likely to be featured on Google. And I know, ironically, ChatGPT as well. People always ask that. It's like, surely they'd be okay with it because it is the AI, but it actually isn't. Like ChatGPT is really keen on featuring original information by people. I know, absolute patrony, but we work with it. It's absolutely fine. And of course, the benefits are massive. They speak for themselves. So ranking on search results, improving user experience, driving engagement, increasing conversions, generate leads, whatever you want to do, it's really key. But what I'm going to do in terms of the benefits is that final one, earning links. Okay, so we're going to talk about links very shortly, and it's going to be one of the shorter parts of this seminar. But ultimately, your research, when it gets found, it's more likely to then get sourced. Does that make sense? So when people are looking for information to feature in their own article, they're going to search on Google and ChatGPT to find the information, the research, the stats, whatever it is, to include in their article. Those stats, that information could be yours. And so you can get in this process where actually your content starts to snowball because it's just constantly getting featured in other people's articles because it was discoverable in the first place. So earning links and earning mentions around the web is one of the fantastic benefits of writing blogs. It's absolutely huge. It's a good form of PR, really. So I mentioned that we're going to talk about some of the kind of 20%, like I said, of like the just slight little differences, little nuances when it comes to ranking in AI search. And again, they're pretty simple and they relate a lot to what we've covered already. But we've been doing a lot of, we have an experimentation department within Lumen SEO. We call it Lumen Labs. We totally stole it from Uber because Uber have Uber Labs, and they experiment with their apps and their user interfaces all the time. But these 5 things are probably the top 5 that we've found in our experimentations that go into an article that gets it on ChatGPT results, that gets it featured in those. So often including an FAQ section, so frequently answered questions, somewhere in the article, just to give really digestible information is really useful. Including a call to action for readers. Now, I appreciate you guys. It's very unlikely you'll be selling a product, or maybe you might, I suppose you might be, selling some resources or something like that. But just having maybe like a newsletter sign up as a call to action is quite good. If you enjoyed my research, found this useful, please feel free to sign up for future publications. Internally linking between your publications is absolutely key. So if there's a part in your article that relates to, so you're mentioning a specific phrase that relates to another article that you've written, you want to make sure that you're linking out to that article. You want to have almost like, think of your blog or your website having this kind of web of interconnections between all these blogs, mentioning each other, kind of pushing each other up. And that really helps because obviously it gets you more traffic, which is great around your website, but also it means that article is deemed more useful and therefore better founded, and therefore more likely to feature in those AI search results. I also find that what was really interesting was that our clients and publishers that were sharing their website pages and sharing their discoveries on social media, just the ones that generally had a social media presence in general, always did really well as well. ChatGPT seems to favor those that have a bit of a public profile, even if that public profile is in a very specific niche. In fact, if anything, that's probably better. So that really helps. Lastly, then, just keep those paragraphs nice and short. We find that the best articles tend to have paragraphs of between 3 and 5 sentences long, mainly because those paragraphs are more likely to get featured in. This is a ChatGPT result here, and you can see it here, right? This is sort of 2 sentences here, a couple of bullet points here. So keeping those paragraphs short is really key. And again, this is the kind of thing that often gets forgotten when research gets published. You get these big chunky paragraphs because again, it's what the academic or the researcher is used to consuming. But you've got to think about the everyday person who, and again, not to patronize anyone, but may have a slightly shorter attention span in terms of just like learning new information, or may just be in a scenario where they need to get answers quickly. So having nice short paragraphs is a great way to do that. Cool. I can see everyone's still here. We've got everyone from Zimbabwe to Germany still here, which is fantastic. We are nearing the end, so I really, really appreciate it. And again, feel free to start popping your questions in the chat. We can get to those in the last 15 minutes. But before we do, I'm just going to offload one brilliant tool. And we just talked about the importance of having a public profile, of being what we call a key person of influence in your specific niche. There's something so exciting about existing, I find, in 2025, is the fact that the global community, I mean, look at us, right? There's a ton of us from different continents around the world, can now all benefit and share in each other's experiences, in each other's offerings and publications. And that's really, really exciting. And so that also applies to building your public profile, right? You can be that influence within a very, very specific niche because, of course, your potential audience is now global. So say you're researching a specific area within child development, right? As an example, or within education, or within geopolitics, you could become an influence within that specific niche because we're not talking about people in your local town or your local city. We're talking about people around the world who may be looking for the kind of discoveries that you're sharing. And so building a PR kind of I guess reputation, building an online reputation in those areas is fantastic. And it works a bit like this. When people link to you, when you get a link to your blog, to your website, this is kind of how it looks. It's a bit like a popularity contest in many ways, because you're essentially attracting people to, like I said earlier, use your website as a source, which is really, it's really beneficial to getting your kind of research and your publications out there. This is just an example of what one of these kind of links looks like. You can see here where there is a link to a trade bike part provider in this blog. So it's in there, it's linking to the business from this article, and that's what you want. But for you guys, this would maybe be another website to do with a similar topic that you publish on, and they will be linking to you as a quote, or if they've used a quote from your article, that would be a link. It would say from so and so, publisher of so and so. But I'm just going to share with you one of my favorite tools for getting this done. It's called Featured. It's absolutely fantastic. It's completely free, up until 3 pitches. So after once you've pitched yourself to a journalist 3 times, it then you have to pay to do more, but then it reloads every month. So you kind of only want to be doing a handful of them every month anyway, particularly if you're in with a specific niche. Now, Featured is a fantastic tool because you can essentially build a profile for yourself. Think about it like building a LinkedIn profile or something like that, where you put the areas that you're an expert in, you put the areas where you can offer great information, great insight, and you build a profile on there around who you are and what you offer to the world. What you'll find then is you have this really intuitive, easy to use dashboard where essentially you just get a feed of opportunities. So, for example, here you can see in my profile, there's an opportunity here to feature in Forbes. So we're not talking about, cute little blogs. We're talking about, Forbes. We're talking about The Guardian. We're talking about The Times. We're talking about big, big publications here. And particularly if you're interested in getting your research found in America, there's a lot of American sources in here, which is particularly useful. And essentially you get this feed, and you can see down the bottom right hand side here, it's a little bit small, but you can see where you can click that button answer. And what that does means that you can then pitch your answer to that journalist or that writer or that media owner. And by doing so, they can then select your answer and feature it in their article. And because of the way the feature platform works, they have to source you, they have to mention your name, but they'll often then include a link to your website or to your blog as well. So there's kind of a 2-3-fold benefit here. You're building a public profile, you're building links to your website or to your blog. You're also just gaining some great PR exposure and referral clicks. So by referral clicks, I mean people who are finding you via, getting published in Forbes, they're clicking on the link that they've sent to you, and now they're through to your website. So there's just so many benefits to this process, and it's just nice and simple. It's easy to use, and my recommendation is to build a profile on here, this week, and then just make a habit of maybe every week for 15 minutes, just popping on and seeing if there's something where you go, oh, I could really offer some value there. I think that journalist could really benefit from my knowledge, my insight. Again, I think this pertains particularly well to you guys. Remember that this writer from Forbes, for example, is going to want to feature the best information, the most high quality information possible. Of course, as people who specialize in information, in gaining and sharing information, you guys are perfect for this. They're more likely to feature you than, maybe someone who's kind of a part-timer or maybe just isn't involved maybe in academia or something like that. So it's a fantastic opportunity because you're more likely to get featured in their posts, in their articles. When it comes to tracking your results, I'm just going to introduce a quick tool. There's so many fantastic demos on YouTube for this platform, and of course, if you have any questions, you can send them through. But I'd recommend, if you do want to find out how well your blog is performing, how well your website is performing, Google Search Console and Google Analytics are both two fantastic free platforms, where you can see how many clicks you're getting from Google Search. You can see how many clicks you're getting from ChatGPT and other search engines through Google Analytics. And it's just a great platform because, look, there's nothing worse than, you start a blog, you start a website, and you just don't know if people are seeing what you're putting out there. You don't know if what you're doing is working, and you want to get that reward, right? You want to create that reward system. You want to put an input and see the output. And it's Google Search Console Analytics where you can get that output. So that's what I'd recommend. They're brilliant free tools, very easy to use as well, and all compatible with those website creators, CMSs that I mentioned earlier. So WordPress, Squarespace, whatever you want to use. And that is me. I wanted to be as useful as possible. So just put a bit of if this was kind of a lot and there's a lot of things going around your head right now, you're not really sure where to start, I just want to include a bit of a kind of 4-part thing that you can do there. So creating a keywords list of topics, just go out there and see what people are looking at by using Google Trends. Creating a blog, of course, adding PR to your routine using Featured, like I mentioned, and just start posting out there as well. Just start putting stuff out there. Like I said, that consistency starts now, and people often ask, when is the best time to start publishing and start doing SEO? And I always say the best time was yesterday. So it's definitely as soon as you can, because you start building that reputation up. And like I said, if you guys have any questions afterwards that you maybe don't think of, during these kind of 15 minutes. There's my details there, so feel free to get in touch. I'll be more than happy to help. But thank you so much. This has been great fun. Appreciate everything. Appreciate everyone sticking around. That's always good news. If you see the numbers drop halfway through, you think, "Oh, I've not not that that's happened before." So yeah, thank you, and I'll leave the details up there for now. But let me know if you want me to take my screen down, Julie. I'm happy to do that as well.
That was fantastic. So useful. And I love sort of the, the really clear next steps. I think it gives us all something to think about and something to do. So now we have our 15 minutes for questions. Folks can pop questions into the chat box. You certainly can raise your hand. Feel free to ask the expert for some ideas that might be relevant to your own research and your own your own career. Who wants to go first?
I've still missed some of the location messages. We've got Cameroon. So cool. Korea. Oh, awesome.
Good.
Question here from Duncan.
Mhm.
Cool. Thanks, Duncan. Hey, mate. Hope you're good. So do the tools you refer to operate in other languages? 100%. So, for example, the Google Trends, you can actually filter. In fact, do you know what? Whilst I'm still sharing, I was going to say stop sharing, then that's not a good idea. If I go through to, let's just open one of these up. So all the tools that I've mentioned are usable in different countries, and you can filter by different countries as well. So I show you Google Trends. So if I put something in here like child development, what it's naturally going to do is then it's going to give me results or data for the location that I'm in. So it's obviously giving me the United States, but these tools can all be filtered for, you can do worldwide if you like, but you can also do pretty much every country, and it'll have specific data for those countries. So, for example, I could put Botswana in here, and then I could see what people are looking for specifically in Botswana to do with child development. So it's 100% usable. Some of the other tools I've mentioned, Featured is available everywhere. You've also, and they're also like particularly open to input from people all around the world as well. It's very really limited by location. Sometimes they'll say something like, if it's like a legal one, they'll say, oh, we only want input from lawyers in the US or whatever, which is fair enough because, different legal systems. That's about it. Every single tool can be used and used in other languages and other territories. And if anything, I recommend that as an approach because then you can target those specific audiences. So, for example, we know that Child and Family Blog's biggest audience is the US. So we will optimize and use keywords that people are searching specifically within the US. That doesn't limit it. Like it doesn't mean that they don't get traffic from the United States, but it certainly helps target that location that they want to get through to. Another question, Navina, hope I pronounced that right. What would you recommend for SEO on Google Scholar specifically? Does it work in the same way as Google and SEO generally? Lovely question. Do you know, I tried to find a screenshot of Google Scholar before doing this, but it was being really really pesky. I don't know if I was searching like between the UK and US. I don't know. Yes, is basically the big answer. It totally works. This is the great thing about all the tools here and why I've used and made these specific recommendations is because they are going to, like I said, these tools work for these techniques work for every single search engine, even like people searching on LinkedIn, people searching on like TikTok, for example. So when it comes to people searching on Google Scholar, that would also apply. So by using these tools, because Google Scholar works in a similar way, okay, it's going to be slightly nuanced towards wanting to find or display stuff that's obviously offered by academics like yourselves, but all of the techniques, the keyword research, the building a kind of public brand, that kind of thing, all works through Google Scholar. It's simply just another one of those search engines. So definitely works in the same way. And obviously that's great news for you guys because I think again you're going to get the kind of person you're going to get more of the kind of people that you want if people are finding you through Google Scholar. Remember using that in university days? It was a great filter using Google Scholar because you just knew it was going to be like high quality information, which is great. Look at putting a stealthy question there, Julie. I love that. Not all academics have blogs, but many have lab websites. Do you suggest using these same ideas on our lab websites to enhance visibility? Absolutely. This is the great thing is that SEO, it doesn't really discriminate. You can have a blog section or a blog area or publications. We had one website the other day that publishes research on fitness, and they called it a Insights Lab or something like that. And it was basically just a blog, but it was a place where people could find their information. And yeah, 100%. So if you are a academic student, whatever, and you're contributing towards a website, the rules absolutely still apply. So you can apply some of these rules to the article that you put on that website that you're a contributor to, and it will absolutely get out to more people. An example of that is we often write a lot of articles and publish them directly on LinkedIn. So we're technically writing them for LinkedIn, and we'll use all these principles because a LinkedIn article can appear in a search result. Like that can be used. So 100%. And actually, the benefit there is that you're going to be writing on a website that's already existing, already has traffic, and saves you the effort of having to start, a website of your own. So you're going to be kind of piggybacking off the back of a website that's already got traffic, already got, some reputation. I know that's a big kind of plus for Child or Family Blog, for example, is that a lot of researchers within child development will publish the research on Child and Family Blog because they just know it's going to go somewhere. They know it's going to go out to that newsletter to all those people, and they benefit from that audience that the website already has. So yeah, look, it's a really really good strategy. Another question from Navina: are there other tools you would recommend besides those you already mentioned? Oh, how long have you got? There's a few. There's a few. I've used the specific ones in here because they are free. So I've avoided using ones that cost just to make sure that they're kind of accessible to everyone. Um, if you're really keen and you're absolutely loving the SEO side, we use a tool called SEMrush. I'm actually just going to put that in the chat, just so you know what it's called. So we use a tool called SEMrush, so SEMrush. It's a tool where you can essentially do keyword research. You can also track where you are featured on search for your specific articles as well. So if there's something you're really keen on and you really want to track, get something automatically tracking where you're appearing on search, it's a really, really good tool. It's not for a specific single user, it's not that expensive. And of course, if you wanted to use the tool as part of an organization, then it gets a lot easier. But it's not the sort of cheapest tool in the world, so that's why I didn't mention it per se. But that's a really good tool. If you're also really enjoying the PR side of things, you're really enjoying being published through other people's blogs because of, you've been using through featured. There's a really good another platform that works in a very similar way called Quoted, which I'll put in there as well because it's spelled in a very sort of tech bro way. But you can sign up for that. It's pretty much exactly the same process as featured. It's just another place to find those PR opportunities. Question from Subin. Again, if I'm butchering anyone's name pronunciations, please tell me. I spent the last week being called Alex, so I'm getting used to it. Or I had an Alet at a smoothie place 3 days ago, but they were so sweet, so I couldn't correct them. It turns out people in Texas are really nice. If I was in London, I'd be like, it's not my real name, mate. Cool. Sorry, I missed your point while you spoke about keywords. So short tail and long tail are both useful, but used for different purposes. Yes, absolutely. And I wonder how Google Scholar finds out shows reaches articles and is different from Google. Yeah, so similar to I think a question we had there before about Google Scholar, you can use all of these techniques, and it will help you gain more exposure as you show through Child and Family Blog. Naturally, just by doing what we're doing these processes for them. They're getting more clicks through other search engines outside of Google. I imagine they're getting traffic through Google Scholar. I just haven't checked, but I can only imagine that they are because the rules are absolutely the same. Yeah, 100%. You good quality information that's well structured, that's targeting, trending searches. That all applies to Google Scholar big time. Google Scholar will prefer people with a public profile, particularly with like a reputation for obviously being great at research, things like that. So it's going to work exactly the same way. But I'm really glad you guys asked about this because could definitely do more research into Google Scholar as a kind of area to get published. Yeah, it's really interesting. Just going to go back to the initial one, keywords, short tail, long tail. Yeah, so short tail and long tail are both useful, but used for different purposes. Yes, spot on. And what tends to happen is that obviously a lot more people, you'll get a lot more search volume, lot more people searching for a short tail keyword. But the drawback of targeting those short tail ones is that the person who finds you via a short tail search doesn't really know what they want. It's very vague. Whereas, of course, someone who's searching a long tail keyword, a really long phrase, like I said with ChatGPT, prompts are often 10, 20 words long. If they find you via those specific long tail searches, they are what we call just a better quality visitor. They'll spend longer on your website. They're more likely to get in touch. They're more likely to sign up to your newsletter or whatever that is. So it's just a better person to get through, even though it has, a lower volume. Duncan loves the questions. Is there an advantage to publish blog posts on a university website rather than a personal website? Yeah, pretty similar answer there to Julie's question. Yeah, very, very similar in the fact that 100% you can piggyback off the fact that that website, university website, has already a reputation online. It's the other benefit as well. I think it's the same in the US that domain names for universities will be .edu. Am I right in saying that? It'd be .edu. So it's similar to posting on a website that's .org. You have to do specific things to qualify to be a .org or a .edu, and so they are often then perceived as being higher authority domains, so higher authority websites than maybe a .com, a .co.uk, or something like that. So yes, absolutely an advantage to publish on university websites. They're obviously already going to have a current audience, so that really, really helps. But yeah, you're gonna get more visibility. I would say the only thing is, of course, is that if you want to develop a reputation, it's a bit like asking a business owner who sells products, is there a benefit to selling on Amazon instead of your own website? Like, yes, because we know that Amazon gets lots of visitors, but of course they don't get to experience like your business and the way your business looks and feels. And so it's a similar answer here. I think building a reputation through a personal website, particularly if you want to go ahead and maybe write your own books or write essays that you want to maybe sell or something like that. Building your own reputation on the sidelines really, really helps. Building your own website on the sidelines to grow over time, particularly if you've got, like I said, a long-term goal in mind, like publishing books or publishing articles that you want to monetize. I think having your own personal website is great. But look, if your goal is very simple, if your goal is to get eyes on your research, then yeah, publishing through a university website or a shared website is really useful.
Well, and I think we are almost out of time. So maybe if you want to just choose one of the final two questions to address, and then folks can contact you afterwards.
Yeah, of course, no problem. I've got Christy hasn't asked a question yet, so I'm gonna go for Christy if that's cool. So my understanding is that the .org, .edu, etc. doesn't matter anymore in the sense that they no longer indicate level of self-interest or commercial interest. Is this not correct? I'm basing this purely off our publications and our research and we've discovered in Lumen Labs that, excuse me, a website that has .org or .edu just does better in terms of the fact that it's just a higher authority and more trusted source. It's interesting in the sense that they no longer indicate level of self-interest or commercial interest is not correct. So yeah, I would say they do still matter because I think I don't know if it's nuanced by country, by the way, in the fact that I don't know whether a university in the UK or maybe like a college or something, because they're often publicly funded, um, whether they would have more authority, but I think we're probably going into too much detail there. I would just say in general, yes, a .org, a .edu website, it does make a difference. It doesn't, like I said, doesn't make it exclusively different in the fact that, for example, our website, lumineseo.co.uk, it's a UK specific domain. It's not particularly high authority. We get clicks every single day for people looking for information on how to appear in search engines. So like it doesn't make it impossible if your website is .com or .co.uk or whatever territory you're in. It doesn't make it impossible. So it's still any website is a good website. Any website can rank in search. That's still the case. We just still have found that a website with a .org or .edu adds a level of authority. Whether that's because it's .edu or because it's just an old website with, a long background with plenty of work put into it, maybe that's it. Maybe it's not actually about the fact it's .org or .edu, but about the fact that the nature of those websites is that they've been around for a long period of time. I'm open to that maybe making the difference. That could be, yeah, that could make a difference. But no, it's a great question.
All right. On that note, we will wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for attending. It's so exciting to see lots of familiar faces, but also new ones as well. If you have any questions at all, please reach out to Alid. Our next webinar will be November 13th. And so please look for information about that. Yeah, just a final thanks to Alid. Such an important, interesting presentation, and I'm so happy that you were the one to kick off this webinar series. So thank you, and thank you everyone. Have a good evening, day, morning, and I hope to see everybody soon.